I think this is the most important year for Bitcoin that has ever existed. We are probably days away from a series of ETFs being approved. And so this is the moment for Bitcoin to use that old term, cross the chasm and really see mainstream adoption, where our parents and our grandparents understand what it is, can buy it, and then do buy it. If all of this comes to pass, Bitcoin will be a part of the traditional financial lexicon by the end of 2024. So that is my most anticipated trend of the year.
The Bitcoin ETF enthusiasm continues to spread far and wide. Billionaire investor and venture capitalist Chamath Palihapitiya has now joined the massive crowd of Bitcoin and crypto investors, predicting how huge the approval of a spot Bitcoin exchange-traded fund will be for the leading crypto asset, and by extension, the entire digital asset space. Earlier this year in April, Chamath opined that crypto was dead in America. The Canadian-American venture capitalist made this remark in reaction to the SEC's continued onslaught on the cryptocurrency industry. "Crypto is dead in America," Chamath began during one episode of the popular All In podcast. "You had Gensler even blaming the banking crisis on crypto. The United States authorities have firmly pointed their guns at crypto." These statements were made during a time when U.S. regulators, especially the Gary Gensler-led Securities and Exchange Commission, were coming after crypto firms and projects with every weapon in their arsenal. While the regulatory onslaught continues to this very day, news and excitement about the almost certain approval of a spot Bitcoin ETF has quickly overshadowed it. During the latest episode of the podcast, Chamath chooses Bitcoin and Bitcoin ETFs as his most anticipated trend of 2024. The venture capitalist, who has been a longtime Bitcoin bull, made 4 important predictions. First, he predicts that 2024 will be the most important year for Bitcoin since its creation. This is due to expectations of ETF approvals and significantly increased allocation from institutional investors. Second, Chamath predicts that this is the year Bitcoin crosses the chasm and really sees mainstream adoption. By the billionaire's estimates, the approval and influx of institutional investors is only the first part of mainstream adoption. Chamath is predicting the works. He believes the SEC's approval will be the first stage towards everyone, even our aged parents and grandparents, being able to buy and actually buying Bitcoin. This third prediction might not seem like much, but it is something that every investor in this space has hoped for years. The billionaire foresees a time when Bitcoin is so widely known and accepted that older generations who have until now been so opposed to it will not only want to buy, but buying and holding Bitcoin will be very easy for them. A future where you don't need much or any technical know-how at all to be able to buy and hold your Bitcoin. Chamath believes this future starts this week when the SEC is slated to approve several spot Bitcoin ETF applications. Chamath's final prediction is that Bitcoin will become a part of the traditional financial lexicon by the end of 2024. Again, this is another huge prediction for the leading digital asset and the entire crypto space. We will now bring you some more clips from the podcast featuring 2 more interesting predictions from entrepreneur and investor David Sachs. While these predictions are not directly Bitcoin related, we believe they are factors that will be very good for Bitcoin and crypto prices in 2024. But there's more. We also have clips from an insightful interview featuring someone who strongly believes this would be the much-anticipated Bitcoin supercycle, plus BlackRock's latest $2 billion Bitcoin surprise. But before that, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos. Let's get right into it.
My biggest business deal is whatever the Fed decides to do to replace or extend BTFP, the Bank Term Funding Program. Remember that the BTFP, which is what the Fed used to bail out the regional banking system last year, in was it like March or April, it was only supposed to last for 1 year. It's supposed to be a temporary program. But I do not think that the balance sheets of regional banks are healthy enough to survive without this continued liquidity from this program. So I think the Fed's going to have to do something to either replace the program, extend the program. They're going to have to do something. And I think that regional banks are still in pretty bad shape with, impaired commercial debt portfolios. And they need this liquidity as long as the yield curve remains inverted. So I think the Fed is going to try and somehow figure out a program to keep these guys liquid until they can de-invert the yield curve. And I think the Fed's trying to massage all of this into place without there being a recession. I'm not trading on these predictions, so you shouldn't either. My guess here, just a guess, is energy. Energy stocks, energy prices could be among the top performers of 2024, just because there's so much risk of conflict breaking out now and escalating. So I agree with Freeberg that there are huge risks of escalation in the Middle East. The Ukraine war is still going on. I think not enough attention is being paid to what's happening between Venezuela and Guyana. Venezuela is basically attempting to annex Guyana's offshore oil reserves, which are huge. This is basically just pure theft. Ethiopia also has tense relationships with a few of its neighbors, and I could easily see there being a war that breaks out between Ethiopia and Egypt, or Ethiopia and Eritrea. And then that could spill over and create further disruption in the Red Sea. We also still have this unresolved issue of the Houthis. And of course, you have neocons braying for war with Iran, as they always do. John Bolton just published another piece saying that we have to go to war with Iran. So there's just so many ways that the conflict could escalate and create, I think, a spike in the price of oil.
As stated earlier, we strongly believe that these two predictions from Sachs, the first about the biggest deal of 2024 and the second about 2024's best performing asset, will be great for Bitcoin. Last March, during the regional banking crisis, the Federal Reserve Board announced the Bank Term Funding Program, BTFP, to offer collateralized loans to banks, credit unions, and other eligible depository institutions, pledging U.S. Treasuries, agency debt, and other qualifying assets as collateral. Though the one-year program ends in weeks, data from the Fed showed a record high of $141 billion in borrowing from the BTFP in the week through January 3rd. The previous all-time high reached in the week, ending December 27th, was $136 billion. With this record-high borrowing so close to the deadline, if the Fed decides to go ahead with its March timetable, we could soon be plunged into another banking crisis. Bad for the economy, but great for Bitcoin. In addition, Sachs' prediction about increasing geopolitical tensions in so many regions of the world is another great plus for the leading crypto asset. In times of such chaos and confusion, investors all over the world seek shelter in safe haven assets, and Bitcoin is arguably the safest of them all. As promised earlier in the video, we will now bring you clips from a recent discussion between Kitco's Michelle McCory and Andrew Axelrod, a global macro and Bitcoin commentator. Andrew strongly believes that this will be the much-anticipated Bitcoin supercycle. Here are clips from the discussion.
Historically, Bitcoin has a halving event every 4 years. So one of these 4 years is one cycle. It's one epoch. And so for people that have been in Bitcoin for a while, they tend to think in these terms of cycles. At some point, maybe a cycle is going to break down. I think that you mentioned the super cycle. That's where I think Dan Held originally coined that term. But what it essentially means is that a super cycle is just when the cycles essentially break down and you start getting you start getting price action that seems to break this pattern of. It's usually again a 4-year cycle. So out of those 4 years, it's 3 years of green and one year of red. And so a super cycle would imply that, and it's feasible, especially with all of these new entrants coming in, because this isn't just a one-time event. This would be, as you were saying, these would be pension funds. These would be all kinds of allocators putting in a steady stream. It's a little bit a cookie cutter, but essentially what's happening here is they now have a fixed allocation to this new asset class, which they will be able to access through an ETF. And then it's just a question of, all right, every quarter or so, we got to rebalance and the money keeps flowing and flowing. And that could sort of, and the dimensions here would, break all of the, what we've seen from retail traders up until now. So that's what a super cycle would mean here, which is that there's a steady stream that's pouring into absolute scarcity. And that would have, a shock on the price, and it would break this 4-year cycle. Is sort of at least that's sort of the thinking behind a super cycle. We haven't seen it yet. Might not happen this time, but yeah, when I'm talking about a cycle, that's what I'm talking about.
Do you think we'll get the super cycle then?
I thought we could have seen it last time, because you started seeing companies putting it on their on their balance sheets. Now, admitted, it was pretty much just MicroStrategy and maybe Square, but But yeah, I think it's a definite possibility. I mean, as this thing becomes more acceptable, you see more mainstream, more institutional adoption. It'll become just another fixture. It'll just become another tick the box exercise on these investment committees. The thing is, there's always a moment in time where it's sort of that last price that you've seen. So, for example, when I first got into Bitcoin, the price was around 300, and there's no going back. Like, I'm not going to see that price. I'd love to see that price again. I'm not going to see it again. And so, at some point,
well, you'd love to see it so that you can pick it up again at 300, is I guess what you're saying.
Exactly. I would love a time machine, is what I'm saying.
Okay, so you're saying, though, that 2024 could set up Bitcoin for a supercycle.
I'm saying it's a definite possibility.
It's now time for our biggest Bitcoin ETF reveal of this video. The world's largest asset manager and most prominent Bitcoin ETF applicant, BlackRock, might be up to something so massive that Bloomberg ETF analyst Eric Balchunas says it would blow away all first-day/week volume and AUM records for any ETF ever. BlackRock reportedly has $2 billion in capital lined up for its upcoming spot Bitcoin ETF launch. VanEck's head of digital assets research, Matthew Siegel, revealed this during a Twitter Spaces discussion hosted by The Block on Friday. Siegel said, "I heard from a pretty well-placed source that BlackRock has more than $2 billion lined up in week 1 in new incremental flows from existing Bitcoin holders who are adding to positions." Though Siegel cautioned that he couldn't vouch for the news, he added that if it did happen in week 1 of launch, it would blow away his team's estimates. "If that $2 billion happened in week 1, that would blow away our estimates," he said. "We're at $2.5 billion in the first spot Bitcoin ETFs in the first quarter of trading, which we do by looking at the past flows into the first gold ETF and adjusting by the U.S. money supply. We have a $40 billion market opportunity over 2 years based on a similar analysis." Eric Balchunas, Bloomberg ETF analyst, has confirmed how huge this will be for Bitcoin. Reacting to the news, he said, "It would be on brand for BlackRock. They've lined up and injected big cash into new ETFs on the first day of trading, so it registers as volume. If it is true, $2 billion will blow away all first-week volume and AUM records for an ETF." The Bloomberg analyst pointed out that of the 25 most successful ETF launches of all time, BlackRock dominates the top 10. In a follow-up post, he added that another credible source has confirmed Siegel's claims that BlackRock has a big day one lined up. On Saturday, Fox Business also reported that BlackRock expects its spot Bitcoin ETF to be approved by Wednesday, January 10th, the deadline for the SEC's decision on ARK Invest's spot Bitcoin ETF application. What are your thoughts on all these predictions and bullish events lining up for Bitcoin and crypto? Do you believe this will be a supercycle and the year we finally go mainstream? Please drop your comments and observations in the comments section below. Also, ensure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notifications bell, and check out our other videos. Thanks for watching.
Hey Savvy Finance enthusiasts, massive shout out for being the heartbeat of Savvy Finance. Your support has been the wind beneath our wings, and we can't express our gratitude enough. Now buckle up because we've got an exclusive deal just for you. Ever wanted a slice of the action? We're offering a golden opportunity to own part of our YouTube channel's potential future revenue. This isn't just an investment, it's an invitation to be a part of our story. Investing means you're not just an investor, you will be a participant in the future of Savvy Finance. No cheesy lines, just a genuine call to embark on this journey together. But wait, there's more. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, become a Savvy ambassador. Share our videos on every platform: Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Your shares amplify our visibility, potentially translating to more views and more YouTube revenue. Here's the kicker. If our viewership increases, we would not be just growing financially. We would be making a tangible impact by spreading valuable financial education. Now the icing on the cake. Invest and you'll score exclusive access to our private Savvy Finance Discord. Here you can chat with Savvy Finance, swap ideas with fellow investors, and be at the forefront of exciting developments. Click on the link below to register your Gigastar account. You can also find the link to my offering page in the description below. Get your Gigastar account ready, review the offering details, and let's embark on this thrilling venture together. To the incredible Savvy community, thank you for being the backbone of our success. Your journey is my journey, and together, we're creating waves. Cheers.